very tough day at the Deutsch for the Falcons. Obviously we did not play very well. Kent played extremely well. Unlike the Ohio game 2 weeks ago, I would not say that this was a group that didn't show up to play or didn't get effort. It's a thin team that got even thinner, and right now we're just at we're threadbare, and we're threadbare on the offensive line, we're threadbare on the secondary, and we're just asking guys to play really before they're ready, and I think it showed up in those two areas. We let the ball over our head in the secondary, and we really struggled today up front in the offensive line. It started out bad, and then when we lost Ben Boychuk, it even became tougher. So we obviously didn't run the ball very well, and we didn't protect very well. And I can't say it's for guys that weren't giving effort or weren't trying. Just guys at times were just getting overwhelmed. And somehow, some way, we've got to find a way to regroup and get these guys playing together and figure out something. Just right now we're a very thin football team, and Kent played well today, and it was just a little too much for us to handle.
Coach, would you talk a little bit about the struggles to run block? I mean, that seemed to set up the problems with their pass rush. I mean, once you couldn't get a run game going, it was years back.
They were, they dominated us up front. They're the best defense in the conference, and they're the best rush defense in the conference. We're one of the worst rush offenses in the country. And so that matchup did not start out well just by numbers, and then when you've lost as many offensive linemen as we have this year, it was tough. I mean, we didn't block them. They got off the blocks. They did a good job, and then we became one-dimensional, and they were able to tee off. And again, I think at full strength, I think we would have held up a little bit better. But when we lost Ben Boychuk, I think it really, and they had all the guys playing different positions, and it was a challenge for him. And certainly with what Kent does on defense, with all the zone blitzing and twisting, we didn't handle that stuff well all game. So it was, and again, we knew going into it was going to be a challenge for us to block them, and it certainly played out that way.
Obviously, have an injury report later, but what did it look like initially with Ben?
I don't know. I mean, he tweaked it in the shoulder, and right away they told us he'd be done for the day. So he was, being the captain and a 3-year starter, he was kind of with all the things that have gone on in the O-line, he was kind of like the one piece that was holding it all together. And I think obviously when he went down, it hurt us. So we got 2 converted defensive linemen in there, and we've got a true freshman. And Jordan Russos is going to be a good offensive tackle. I think Dominic Falone is going to be a very good offensive guard. And I certainly think guys are playing with effort. It's just, that probably as much as any position in football has to be learned and trained. Again, it is what it is. And I do not fault their effort at all today. I really don't. When the game was over, I couldn't get mad at them. I couldn't, obviously we're not happy with the execution. Losing will never be acceptable, and we're never going to be satisfied with that. But I couldn't look those guys in the eye and say they didn't give us the best they could, because I do think they did give us the best they could.
Defensively, will you talk a little bit about the play you got from your 2 new corners? I mean, Spencer's played a little, but
Spencer's played a little, and again, I thought Andre made some plays early, but they went after him. And hopefully he'll learn from it and grow from it. And, he's a freshman. And Keith Morgan, when we lost him for the game, and Aaron Foster, a true freshman, went in there. And again, Aaron's going to be a really good player. And I think you look in games like this and in seasons like this, you look for the silver lining. And the silver lining is that we've got a lot of good young defensive players that are playing a lot of football for us. And their day's going to come. I see the makings of a very good defense for us. I mean, I really liked the way, you know, our tackles played. I thought we defended the run well today. I don't know what their running numbers were like, but I thought this is 2 weeks in a row that our defensive front held up pretty well. I think our linebackers, Dwayne Woods, Boo Boo Gates, Champ, were active. You know, we went into this game and we have what we call a big three on offense and a big three on defense. And one of our big three on defense the last 3 or 4 weeks has been, do not let the ball go over your head. And we know with our secondary that people are going to challenge us and test us, you know, 8 to 10 times a game. And you know, the play action that they threw the early one on, the corner route, you know, they got us biting where we shouldn't, and then they hit those 2 post routes, and then they almost hit another double move, and they had another one that they underthrew. And you know, the dilemma is, you know, against teams that run the ball like Kent does, there's only so much 2 safety, hard corner coverage you can play. At a certain point, you've got to be able to cover people, and they got some matchups worked up, and they did a nice job.
Game-wise, early on, you got the turnover, set your offense up, and you obviously didn't do much with it. I mean, is that kind of the fine line this team is on right now? You need to take advantage of those opportunities?
Whether it was a turnover at Ohio early or the turnover here early, you know, those are opportunities that we can't come away from empty-handed. You know, there is not a lot of margin for error right now with this football team. And you know, to generate a turnover in the first series and come up empty, you know, you just, every time that we seem to gain a little bit of momentum like that early in the game, and we have a chance to capitalize on it and maybe get a positive run going from it, you know, has just not materialized. And you know, the bottom line is that good teams make those plays and get those things going, and right now we're obviously struggling. And you know, we're going to keep working at it, and we're going to get there.
On the 4th down play on that series, going for it, can you just walk through your thinking on that 4th down play?
Well, we were out of field goal range, and at that point with the punt, you know, unless you hit it perfect, you're only gaining about 13 yards in field position. The 4th down play, I think, was inside the 35. You know, we were with the wind, and we thought our range to kick a field goal was around about the 25. And you're on the 33, so we were in that 4-down territory. And quite honestly, I was hoping, I didn't want to come away from that turnover empty-handed. So I let our offense coordinator know on 2nd down that if we didn't cross the 25, it was 4-down territory. And it became evident right away that we were going to struggle blocking those guys, because you know, I think Matt had a tough time. He was really not able to set his feet the whole game.
I was going to ask you about Matt. It looked like he took a step back from the last couple of weeks. Is that from the pressure?
Yeah, he did. I mean, you coach the quarterbacks and you train them to put their eyes down the field and to ignore the rush. But the best of them, they can only get hit so many times. And that's always the challenge coaching quarterbacks is they need to operate within the system, and they need to keep their eyes where they need to keep their eyes. But you get to a point that they get hit so much, and it's inevitable that they're going to start getting their eyes out of where they need to be. And I think on the one pick he threw is just an example of that. That you know, that there's times that if we did protect, he didn't let plays develop because he was so used to being pressured so quickly. And, you know, in the coaching world, we call that phantom pressure. And it's really, you know, I've coached quarterbacks for 16, 18 years, and you know, you see it happen at every level of football. It happens in the NFL. It happens in the highest level of college football. But I think it's important as a freshman quarterback that we've got to let him play through that. You know, that you might say, geez, why is he out there in the 4th quarter? But he's got to learn to play through that. And again, it's not you know, the quarterback's the one position he can't protect himself. You know, so I don't think it's certainly not a lack of courage or a lack of guts. It's just part of playing the position.
Phantom pressure, is that something that can only be learned from the game setting, or is there any way you can even simulate something like that in practice?
We simulate it in practice, and we've just, you know, in however many games have been here now, what is this, 21? I mean, that's as bad as the pressure's ever been.